FeatureCAM is shipped with a vise import add-in, which allows you to import a series of vise models into your active document. By default, the add-in contains a series of vices that you can import, but you can also customize this add-in to use your own vise models. So within the Support Summit 2018 folder, I'm just going to navigate and click on this folder icon. This is going to open a folder which contains 3 items. The one I'm interested in first is this vise parasolid file. So I'm just going to click and drag that into my active document. At this stage, I'm just going to cancel the import results. I don't really want to change the size of the stock at this point. And as you can see, if I rotate the model, we have a series of solids that make up our vise component. So at this stage, there's a number of things that we need to do to get this vise model ready for use with the vise import add-in. The first thing I'm going to do, just navigate to the part view, open up the solids node, and you can see this particular component contains 5 solids. We need to follow a specific naming convention so that we can use this component with the vise import add-in. This particular vise has a fixed jaw and a mobile jaw. So the naming convention follows this. So the first thing I'm going to do is just select the fixed jaw, and I'm just going to rename this solid vise underscore fix. Likewise, the same for the mobile jaw. But this time, I'm going to rename it vise underscore mobile. Lastly, I need to name the base. And this time, I'm going to use the name vise underscore fix underscore bottom. In this particular document, I have 2 more solids. These need to be named depending on whether they belong to the bottom, the fix, or the mobile jaw. So for example, this particular solid belongs to the mobile jaw and moves with it. Therefore, I'm going to rename this vise underscore mobile underscore 1. This naming convention can be repeated with underscore 2, 3, 4, and so on until you have named all of the solids that move with the mobile jaw. This same principle can be applied to the fixed jaw. So I'm just going to rename this particular solid vise underscore fix underscore 1. Now that all of my solids have been renamed, the next thing to do is to orientate the vise in a specific orientation. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that the z-axis points vertically out from the vise. Therefore, I'm just going to select all of my solids at this point and rotate them 90 degrees around the x-axis. Make sure I hit a preview. Have a little look to see if that's in the correct orientation. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to press apply. The next thing I need to make sure is that the x-axis runs parallel to the jaws itself. Therefore, once again, I need to perform a rotation of these components around the z-axis this time. Once again, pressing preview, I can see that I actually need to rotate this by -90. And once again, hit apply. The next thing to do is to make sure the 2 jaws are touching each other. Therefore, I'm just going to select both the solids that I've named underscore mobile. And at this point, I'm just going to perform a transformation from point to point. Just going to choose the edge of this jaw here. I'm going to translate them to this point here. Again, hitting preview to make sure everything looks okay. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to press apply. Just zooming out so I can see my entire model. And the last thing I need to do to make sure that this component is ready for the vise import add-in is to ensure that the 0 point of my coordinate system is at the center of the 2 jaws. At this stage, I'm just going to hide the stock so I can get a good view, see if everything looks okay. And you can see that the x-axis is running parallel to the jaw, the z-axis is running perpendicular to the vise components. If I just show all solids, you can see that the 2 vise jaws are touching each other. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead and save my document. And I'm going to call this particular FM file the same name that I want to appear within the vise import wizard. So I'm just going to call it my fixed vise and save. Now that we've created the vise component, we need to go ahead and save it in a specific folder location. So I'm just going to navigate back to the browser. Once again, clicking on the folder icon and navigate into the Position Vise folder shortcut. This will navigate you to the Program Files, Autodesk, FeatureCAM, Add-ins, Position Vise folder. Within this folder, we need to make two changes. The first thing we need to do is we need to save the vise that we've just made within this Files folder, and then we need to make a small change to the initialization or INI file to make sure that it appears in the drop-down menu within the add-in itself. So let's go ahead and save the files in the correct area. So at this point, I need to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it the same as I called the FM file, making sure that we're using a consistent naming convention. Just going to go ahead and open this folder, navigate to where I saved the original, which is on my desktop. I'm just going to simply click and drag to make sure that I'm saving in this particular folder location. To accompany the FM file, you can include up to 6 images. These images will represent a stock position left, center, and right, and another 3 images for stock positions left, center, and right, but this time with the use of parallels. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm only going to use one image. Just again, navigate to that folder icon, navigate into the complete folder, and you can see we have a vise-center PNG file. So once again, just going to copy this file and paste it into the same folder location that we moved the myfixeddevice.fm file. Lastly, I need to rename this image to have the same naming convention. So myfixeddevice. And then depending on what the picture is showing, you need to do a dash center, dash left, or dash right. Now I mentioned before that we need to also change an initialization file. So at this point, I'm just going to navigate back to the position_vice folder. Go ahead and right click on the vise.ini, and I'm just going to use Notepad++ to edit this particular file. At this point, what you can see is a variety of different sections, and each section represents a particular vise. At this stage, I would recommend choosing a similar vise to the one that you've created. In this case, I'm going to use this Girardi, and I'm just going to simply copy and paste the settings. This will make sure that my settings are there or thereabouts, and then I can make any necessary changes from that point. So the first thing I'm going to do once I've copied and pasted, so I'm just going to change the name, and this has to be the same name that you used for the FM file and that you also used for the folder. So my fixed vise. Next, we have a variety of settings that we can change depending on the type of vise that we are using. This add-in also works for auto-centering vices. These are vices where both jaws can move. So I'm not going to change the top 3 settings in this case because we have a fixed jaw and a mobile jaw. There's also a number of other settings, for example, import parallel support. Setting this to 1 will allow you to use parallels. Setting this to 0 will grey out that particular function. At this point, I'm happy with the settings, so I'm just going to go ahead and save my file. Now that my file is saved, I can go ahead and close Notepad. At this point, I've made all the necessary changes, so I'm just going to go ahead and close this folder. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and use the add-in to import the vise that I've just created. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a new document, a milling document. Just going to go ahead and cancel the Dimensions tab. And here you can see we have a blank document. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead and navigate to the Add-ins tab, into the Manage area, into the Library. I'm just going to do a search for Vise. At this point, I'm going to select it and press Load, and navigate back to the FeatureCAM environment. Once you load in the add-in and accept the subsequent dialog, you can see that we have this Import Vise icon available to us under the Add-ins tab. I'm going to go ahead and select it. You can see this launches the add-in. From the first drop-down, you can see that we have the My Fixed Device option available to us. Just going to go ahead and select that, and you can see it's chosen the image that we created based on the vise that I've specified as well as the part position in the vise. At this point you can change to a left position or a right position, but make sure you've created the images for those particular options. I'm happy with all the default settings at this point, so I'm just going to go ahead and press import. And at this point you can see that the vise is imported and the jaws have been positioned around the stock.